Hi there. Today I thought I'd introduce you to a technique which on its own isn't necessarily a standalone strategy, although it could be. It's more a technique you can use within any strategy that relies on a time decay trade. So we're principally going to be concentrating on the footy market, and I've already set up a blank strategy here. So let me just insert a rule. Now what we're going to do is we're going to assume that we are manually placing a back backup bet of £100. So what we want to do in this particular case is place time decay lay bets to close the trade out. So we'll want to set this up as an in play or start at in play. And we want to, say for example, do it 4 times with a time decay of, I'll use 15 seconds in this example, but obviously when you set this up for real, you would use perhaps 5 minutes. I'm just going to use 15 seconds so that the video is a bit shorter and I'm not having to skip ahead while still allowing you to see the thing in action. Now, the process that we're going to do is to place a bet, and it's going to be a lay bet. Now here's the first thing that I haven't shown you before. As you're aware, you have to tell Fairbot what selection in the market it needs to act upon. And this time we are going to use the buy last bet option. We wish to place a lay bet, and we'll set the odds to the best lay odds. And we'll set the amount, fixed amount of £25, since we're going to be using a £100 stake, and we're going to use 4 lays, each of £25. We don't need any bet persistence or kill or fill in this particular instance, but what we do need is a condition that identifies if there's a back bet in the market. So we can use market bet count for that. We can set that equal to 1, and it needs to look for a back bet that is fully matched. Nothing else is required. So if we save this, what's going to happen is this rule will just sit, not doing anything until such times as you place a bet, a back bet, that will be detected and that this rule will kick in. So let's just assign it to this particular match here, although we're actually in half time, so we won't actually see much time decay, but you'll see the rules kicking in. So Silkeborg is actually in the lead, so let's just place £100 on them, so because their odds would, through time decay, continue to fall as long as the score remained the same. Now you'll see that this rule has immediately kicked in, which isn't really what we wanted to happen. What we want to happen is when we first of all specify our bet, we don't want the first lay to go in until, in the real world, 5 minutes after we've placed our bet. So what's actually happened is this thing has started off with its 15-second increments, but the very first bet it put in was essentially at the same time as the initial back bet. 5 seconds later, effectively, because of the delay, it's looking for a fully matched bet. So that's actually not really what we want. So let me just reset that and clear the numbers away, and we'll have another look. Okay, what we want to do is go back into the strategy editor and edit the time decay trade that we're working on. And if we add in another rule, and this rule here is actually going to be check for matched back bet. This will be kicking off or start at the start of the game, and we want to execute this twice. Now again, the time to wait after execute would normally be in minutes if you were using this in the real world, but just to let you see that it can be different from the incremental steps that you have in the other rule, let me just set this to 20 seconds. The action in this case is going to be dummy, because what I'm doing is I am simply using this to create a time delay from when the bet is entered to when the lay bets start coming in. So we want this to do our bet detection. So that should be equal to 1. It's a back bet we want, a fully matched back bet. And in this case, we need to change that. Sorry, let's move that up and then come into here and change that so that it checks that the matched bet has been checked for, if you understand me. So we'll go to conditions, remove that, click on add condition, and we need to check that this rule has fired. And we need to check that it has fired twice. Why do I need to do that? Because first of all, whenever the bet is submitted, this option here will check to see if there's a bet in the market that's been fully matched. So that'll have been executed one time. Then it will loop. It will wait for 20 seconds and check again. It will then have executed 2 times, which will then cause this to fire. In other words, by doing it twice, we can put in a time delay that allows us to specify the start of this rule based on the time that we enter the market. Okay, all rules can have a start time, as you're more than familiar with by now, I would think, where you can specify a fixed time, a relative event start time, or relative to the in-play time. This mechanism, however, allows me to do it relative to when the bet was entered into the market. Now that could be before the start of the match, 10 minutes into the match, halfway through the second half. That allows me to do that. Okay, now what we haven't done, now that I see that there, I haven't actually specified this rule as being the number of executions to check for. So I just need to go into there, choose that rule, and then OK. So it's going to check that this rule here, check for matched back bet, has executed twice before that will fire. So let's see that in action. So if we assign this, so that's going to sit there waiting. We're obviously in half time at the minute. So if I click on here, £100 stake, this will execute once the bet has been matched. There you go. So it's now going to wait 20 seconds and it will check again. And obviously, because I'm not putting any further bets into the market, that will be true. That will change to 2, and this will then kick in. Now, obviously, when we're doing this for real, that will be set to 5 minutes, perhaps. And this loop here will be set in the minutes rather than the seconds. But I'm doing it here so that we can see it in action one after the other. So that's the second one coming in, and then another 15 seconds, and the third one will go in. So obviously, because we're at half time, there's no market movement at all. So we aren't really seeing any benefit in terms of the actual time decay. But you can see the thing in principle working. So that's the third one going in. We'll just check over here to make sure. So there you are. We've had 3 bets going in. As I say, because it's half time, there's no movement in the odds, and that's why they're going in like that. Okay, and there's the fourth one going in. It'll still be at 1.3. Now, of course, it's taken the current lay odds, and there's nothing to stop you asking for slightly lower odds. So we can edit that rule and change that to minus one tick, for example. Okay, so that's a generic mechanism that you can use on any time decay market. So you can use it on the unders market, the back the draw at the start of the game, and so on and so forth. But you can do exactly the same thing for any market that increases in odds as time progresses when there's no change in the market. So, for example, instead of unders market, you can do the corresponding overs market. And the process would be essentially the same. So we can just set up these two bets simply by copying and pasting and copying and pasting that one. So in this case, we need to rename that. And this is going to check for a lay bet. In other words, it's going to check for when we start off our trade by laying one of the selections. The setting here is going to be the same. It's still going to be a dummy, but what it needs to do here is to check for a lay bet. So get rid of that, choose a lay, it should be fully matched, and that's it. Similarly with this, we can edit this so that it will start putting in back bets. To close off the opening lay position. So all of this will still be the same. The action will be to place a back bet at the best back odds, and again, you might want to ask for something a little higher. £25, we're going to do it 4 times as indicated here as before. And we need to check for the matched lay bet is equal to 2. Okay, and we can save that. Let's just reset that and clear the numbers away. And if we reassign this, and let's do a lay, so it's 1-0, so let's lay the draw for £100. So that's our bet going in here. And if we switch back to the automation tab, you'll see check for matched lay bets. It's set to 1. There's 1 bet in. It's done it once. It's going to count down 20 seconds, and this will change to 2, and the back bets will start going in. Okay. Now watch what happens if I get involved in the market again.
This event will start in
fact, I don't actually need to get involved in the market again, because you'll see that once this gets matched, assuming that it does get matched, what will happen is if one of these bets gets matched, this one will actually start counting. And so the two will actually interfere with each other. Just so happens that because I'm doing this at half time, the market's not moving, so these are taking a while to get matched. So the fourth one's going to go in momentarily. Right, so we've actually got 4 in the market waiting to be matched. Let me just move this down a bit. So we've got 4 unmatched bets at the moment. As soon as one of those get matched, this one here is actually going to start counting down. So be careful if you're doing it this way. There is a way around that, however. So again, let's just go back into the strategy editor. And what we need to do is edit these 2 rules to check that the other one hasn't fired. Okay, so if I come in here and edit this, I need to add in another condition. So this is the check for matched back bet. So what I actually need to do is also check that the check for matched lay bet is equal to nil. And similarly with this one, I need to check that the matched back bet is equal to nil. So now what will happen is, whichever one of these fires first, depending on how we've entered the market, the other one won't trigger, and consequently the corresponding lay bets or back bets won't be submitted. Okay, so if I save that, let's once more clear everything away and take another look at it. Okay, the second half looks as if it may have started, so hopefully we'll see some change in the decay. So click on that again. If I choose to back the home team, since they are one ahead, so there's our bet gone in. It'll get checked again in 20 seconds. Okay, so that's our lays going in now. That's the first one taken. And notice, so we've now got one back bet in here and one lay bet. And then we've got, you'll see because of these limitations here, the other one, the other method, the lay to back, hasn't fired. So by doing it this way, you can set up a generic mechanism, a generic technique that you can apply to any time decay based market. Now, obviously, I haven't put in any greening up option or trading out option or whatever to close off positions once all these things have been done. I'll leave you to figure out how to do that. But there you see our 4 lays have gone in, and because of the time decay that I'm using of only 15 seconds, not much has happened really. We've managed to back at 1.33, effectively trade out 3 of them at 133, and we've actually made a 2-tick profit. Woohoo! Obviously, you would have those time delays set to 3, 4, 5, or possibly longer minutes. Okay, hope you find that useful.
This market is now in play.
I'll speak to you again. Cheers.